I am live. Oh my God, I'm so not ready. I'm so nervous right now. You made me change the page too. I was going to share something from Surah Nisa today, inshallah. I'll share that with you and then I'll take open questions as well, inshallah. Yeah? Somebody said something? Pardon me. There we go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا اللهم لا تجعلنا منهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين يا رب العالمين ثم ما بعد. Everyone, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah Azza wa Jal in certain ayat gives very profound, comprehensive lessons about our deen, and this is one such ayah in Surah An-Nisa. In this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal began with basically the intro to Islam itself. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. Enter into worship of Allah, enslave yourselves to Allah, and don't commit any blasphemy by associating anybody with Him. Maintain your unique and sole worship of Allah. That's the first and most basic principle. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. But then from there, Allah described several matters that have nothing to do with Him. Everything thereafter has to do with people, you and people. As if to say, if you're truly going to be a slave of Allah, then you're going to not just have to fix your relationship with Him, you're going to have to fix your relationship with people. If you're going to be a slave of Allah, the first part is, لَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, don't do shirk with Him. If you're not doing shirk with Him, you have fulfilled Allah's right. But what about the rights of others? He starts with وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with both parents, when it comes to both parents in particular, إِحْسَانًا. Now the word إِحْسَانًا, what's called a masdar in the Arabic language, excellence. You can translate إِحْسَانًا as excellence. And here's a translation of وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And with both parents, comma, excellence, exclamation mark. This is not a normal way of speaking. You could say وَأَحْسِنُوا بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَأَحْسِنُوا بِالْوَالِدَيْنِ. Be great to parents, be good to parents. But he says وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. This is called النَّصْبَ عَلَى الْإِغْرَاء. What that means is, I will accept nothing short of your very best when it comes to your parents. Think about this for a second. In our relationship with Allah, the least you should have is Islam. You get a little better, you have Iman. When you get really good, you get what? Ihsan. When it came to what Allah expects from you for Himself, He only asked for Islam. Worship Allah and don't do shirk. What is that? That's Islam. But when it came to parents, He didn't give you the minimum, He gave you the maximum. This is profound. In the Quran, not only do parents have a unique status because they are mentioned immediately after Allah on multiple occasions. Multiple times Allah will mention Himself, and immediately afterwards He will mention parents, which puts them in a unique position. But Allah does something with parents that's often not talked about. In Surah Al-An'am, I'll actually take a second and open the ayah for you, or the Hufad here can help me find the ayah number. قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ. How does it go, guys? I think it's 150. Let me open it up. Bam, 151. Off by one. Okay. Here's the ayah. قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا حَرَّمَ رَبُّكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ. Tell them, the Rasulullah is told, tell them, come on, I will read to you what your master has made forbidden for you. The ayah is long. What is the ayah going to include? You tell me, before I even read the ayah. What is the ayah supposed to include? Things that are harrama. Things that are what? Haram. This is going to be a list of things that are haram. Let me make the list for you. Allah tushriku bihi shay'an. What does that mean? Shirk is what? Shirk is haram. That's one. La taqtulu awladakum min imlaq. Don't kill your children because of bankruptcy. Now killing your children because of bankruptcy is what? It's haram. Fine. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشْ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. Don't go near any form of shamelessness, the ones that are obvious and the ones that are hidden. Now shamelessness becomes haram. That's the third haram. Then he says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. And don't kill a person that Allah has sanctified. Don't kill an innocent person. Shirk number one, then don't kill your children, don't go near shamelessness, don't kill a person that Allah has sanctified the life of. All of these things are what? Haram. But the number two thing I skipped on purpose. Allah says, Allah tushriku bihi shay'an wa bil walidaini ihsanan. Of all the things that are haram in this ayah, this is the one thing that has nothing to do with haram. He says, excellence with both parents. That is not a prohibition, that's a command. If the ayah said, قُلْ تَعَالَوْا أَتْلُ مَا أَمَرَكُمْ بِهِ رَبُّكُمْ أَتْلُ مَا فَرَضَ عَلَيْكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ. Come, let me tell you what Allah has made mandatory. Then I expect Allah to say, be excellent to parents, because being excellent to parents is what? Mandatory. It's amr. But this is not about amr, this is about nahi. This ayah is about what's haram. This ayah is not about what Allah tells you to do. This ayah is about what Allah tells you not to do. So what is وَبِالْ وَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا doing there? What Allah has done with parents is something He's done with nobody else in the entire Quran. Allah is telling us in this ayah that anything short of ihsan, you're supposed to show excellence to your parents. If you fall short of excellent to your parents, that's haram. That's haram. With no other instruction in Islam does Allah say that the minimal requirement is excellence. Anything short of that, it doesn't even count. You don't have to have ihsan in your salah. You don't have to have ihsan in your hajj. You try to get it, but you may not have it. You may just have enough to get by. That's why our worship has so many holes in it. At the end of that we say, رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. Allah accept from us because there were shortcomings, we didn't do a perfect job. Accept from us. But when it came to both parents, He said anything short of ihsan, not acceptable. It's haram. Subhanallah. He's never done that with any other command. Is that much clear? Now let's ask the question, what does it mean to have ihsan to parents? What in the world does that mean? First, let's understand what it doesn't mean. In our religion is a religion of practicality. It's a religion of balance. It's a religion of justice. These are constants in our faith. It's realistic. Allah does not put a burden on us we cannot bear. We asked Allah Azza wa Jalla, and Allah said before He even asked, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, which means Allah does not put a burden beyond your capacity. He never puts something that's unrealistic on you. If it's not something you can handle, He wouldn't have given it to you. That's impossible. That's number one. Number two, Allah Azza wa Jal qa'iman bil qist. He stands by justice. Allah does not tolerate injustice. This halaqah is meant for men in particular. Because I did the sisters thing, that wasn't on Facebook Live, but the men's thing is now on Facebook for some reason. So women will use it against you. But anyway, I'll tell you some stuff. Men are pulled in many different directions. Your children have rights on you. Your spouse has rights on you. Your siblings have rights on you. Your parents have rights on you. Your job has rights on you. Your government has rights on you. My God, your car has rights on you. You got to take care of that thing too. Your friends have rights on you. You know, your body has rights on you. You are being, like, everybody's got these rights on you. You know, you find for an average man nowadays, there's not enough time to do everything. I'm doing good at work. I don't get enough time for my kids. I don't get enough time for the wife. I don't get enough time for even exercise. I don't get enough time for myself. I don't get enough time for my friends. I don't get enough time for my parents. So many things want my time. I need like 100 hours a day. 24 hours a day doesn't seem like it's enough to give everything justice, and I'm being pulled in every single direction, you understand? And now on top of that, Allah says, when it comes to parents, you have to have what? Ihsan. And when this is not presented in a balanced way, you might think there's two extremes. One extreme is people who don't realize how important it is to be good to our parents. And they are just one item of many items, and they're just kind of, you just pass by. When you're going to do something for your parents, go out of your way and do it like you wouldn't do it for anybody else. That's number one. But remember one thing, and this is where imbalance comes. If you do something for your parents at the expense of the rights of your children, at the expense of the right of your spouse, at the expense of the right of your employer, others have rights over you too. You don't get to take over their rights, erase their rights, or reduce their rights and say, I have to take care of my parents. You guys, Allah says, Bil walidayni ihsana. Ihsan, the first meaning of ihsan isn't just excellence, it's actually fulfilling somebody's rights. To fulfill rights. Does the spouse have rights? Do the children have rights? Do the parents have rights? All of them have rights. Now the thing about the parents is you have to go out of your way to demonstrate ihsan to them. Why? Why not? Why didn't Allah say, give ihsan to the spouse, give ihsan to the children? Even though hadith says it. خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best of you are the best to their families, and I'm the best to my family, Rasul says. So being the best you can be to your family is a sunnah of the Prophet. But the Quran does this unusual amount of emphasis on your parents. Why? Because in all the other relationships, you benefit them. But in this relationship, they benefited you more than you can ever benefit them. Your parents did more for you than you can ever do for them. Your mother held you inside her body and sacrificed of her own blood to bring you into this world. She almost died to get you here. Your father provided for you at a time where you couldn't even feed yourself. You couldn't clean yourself. You couldn't shelter yourself. He provided for you. He provided for your education. He took care of you, and actually taking care of your mother is a favor to you. When your father took care of your mother, he actually did a favor, and it's part of his ihsan on you. Why am I saying that? Because when Allah Azza wa Jal describes Musa alayhi salam, and he describes the favors, وَلَقَدْ مَنَنَّا عَلَيْكَ مَنَّةً مَرَّةً أُخْرَى. In Surah Taha. We've done you other favors too. And part of the favors Allah had done to him, فَرَدَدْنَاكَ إِلَىٰ أُمِّكَ. We returned you to your mom. كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا وَلَا تَحْزَنْ. So she wouldn't cry. So her eyes could become cool. So she wouldn't be sad anymore. When Allah took care of his mom, Allah is saying, I was doing you a favor. So when good is done to your mother, then actually that is a favor on you. You owe your father, not just for, well, I know my mom took care of me, but dad never did anything. The fact that he provided for your mom, and for both of you, the fact that he did that, the fact that he was a husband to her, that actually in and of itself is a favor you can't pay back. Even if he did nothing else. Even if he did nothing else. So in all the other relationships, it's as though you have to do the good to them. But in this one, in the one to parents, you're constantly paying back an impossible debt. It's an impossible debt. And we're going to be in debt our entire life and still not be able to pay it. That's why the best you can do still isn't enough. But try your best anyway. That's why it's وَبِالْ وَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Having said that, now that's the first part of the equation, but we have to balance it. Having said that, you have to give your wife her rights, you have to give your children their rights, you have to give your siblings their rights, you have to give yourself your rights. You have to balance all of these things. If you don't balance them, then you will end up doing dhulm, injustice, wrong to at least one of them. Either yourself, you'll be wronging yourself. You end up wronging your children. There are some people that are so obsessed with giving to their parents and giving to their parents and giving to their parents that they even take from the rights of their children. And sometimes there are parents who ask and ask and ask and ask, and they take more than their right. When they use the ayah of Quran and say, well, no matter how much you do for me is never enough, so give me everything. Give me everything. And they'll use the ayah on you. Ihsan to them comes from Allah. It's not defined by them. Please understand this delicate point. What you should do for your parents is not defined by them. It's defined by you and Allah. If they're asking you to sacrifice the well-being of the people in your care, if they're asking you, for example, some parents ask the husband to punish the wife, to not talk to her anymore. Some parents ask the husband to not allow some basic rights in the family. You can't do that. You can't allow that. When you married a woman, you took her in your care and you promised to be her wali. You promised to protect her. You took the place that her father used to have. Her father would protect her no matter what. And you signed a nikah. أَخَذْنَا مِنْكُمْ مِيثَاقًا غَلِيظًا. You took a heavy contract from them. And now they're under your care. So I don't care what your mom told you or what your dad told you. You can't do wrong by your wife. But the flip is also true. You can't listen to your spouse and do wrong by your parents. Let me tell you what that means, gentlemen, myself included. You're going to live a life in which somebody's going to be unhappy with you. Always. Congratulations to manhood. Welcome to the club. Somebody will be upset with you. Your father will tell you you're not a good enough son. Your mother will say you love your wife more than you love me. Your wife will say you don't really love me. You just love your parents. I'm nothing to you. Your children will say you're always with grandparents, with grandpa and grandma. You don't care about us. Your parents will say you care more about your kids and your family. You've forgotten about us. We're just trash to you. Everybody's gonna think that you don't do anything. You're useless. And let me tell you, the only time they might appreciate you is at your janazah. He was so good to us. He was really good. You find parents, when their children are alive, and when they die, he was such a good son. He was perfect. He used to take so much care of me. As men, let me tell you something. Don't expect to live a life of appreciation. Just don't. Grow a thick skin. But then again, you're not angels. You're human beings. And when you are being pulled in every direction, and everybody is dissatisfied with you, and everybody's unhappy with you, then eventually something inside you will break. Eventually, you can't balance all of this. You just can't. You're going to have to learn to find the balance between two things. One, you get so angry and say, I can never make anyone happy anyway, so I stop trying. Forget everyone. The other extreme, you keep trying to make everyone happy, and the only one miserable left is who? Yourself. You're miserable. And when you're miserable, you can't be good to anybody else. You're no longer going to be able to be a good father, a good husband, a good son. You can't do those things if you've lost yourself. You cannot. There are some times in our relationships that we are the abuser. The men are the abuser. We're the ones that are not giving the rights. And sometimes we are in relationships where the people that need from us, the people that depend on us, become abusive. They become abusive towards us. You have to draw that line of what your rights are. You have to be able to demand your rights. And at the same time, you have to make sure you're not an oppressor. We live in a society where it's almost assumed that if something goes wrong, it must be because men are messed up. Men are not always messed up. There are plenty of men messed up in the Quran. There are plenty of women messed up in the Quran. Human beings are messed up. Human beings have greed. Human beings want more. They're never satisfied. And you're in the middle of just relationships, each of whom want from you all the time. You're going to have to learn to draw the line, and you have to be able to go to sleep at night saying, I did justice. I didn't shortchange my wife. I didn't shortchange my children. I didn't take the rights away from my work. I didn't take the rights away from my parents. And with your parents, you have to practically, not idealistically, practically be able to say, I did the best I could. I did the best I could. I'm being realistic, not idealistic. Quran emphasizes the rights of parents, absolutely. Ibrahim alayhi salam leaves the home, yes or no? He leaves the home. He could just stay there and keep getting beat up. But he leaves the home. There are Sahaba who are put in impossible situations, like Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas. His mother says, I'm going to starve myself to death because you became Muslim. Like, I hate Islam. You converted. I can't take it. I'm going to starve myself. And she was a single mom. She raised him. And he's dying watching his mother not eat a morsel. But he can't leave Islam. He won't leave Islam. This is the kind of, sometimes the emotional torture and the psychological torture is far worse than any physical torture. And sometimes the people that torture us the worst are the people that are the closest to us, in ways that are not physical. You know, a physical abuse is easy to identify. Emotional, psychological abuse is hard to identify. My talk with you tonight is about two things. One, do a good, deep inspection of yourself. Are you a criminal? Are you doing abuse? And number two, equally important, are you the one being abused? Because if you're the one being abused, a lot depends on you. And if you're the one being abused, you're going to break. And when you break, you're not going to be able to do what you're supposed to do. You're not going to be able to maintain. Don't worry about making people happy. You can't. رِضَى النَّاسِ غَايَةٌ لَا تُدْرَكْ. Making people happy is a canyon, there's no bottom to it. You have to be able to make Allah happy. You have to be able to tell yourself in all consciousness that you can stand in front of Allah if you die right now. You can stand in front of Allah and say, Ya Allah, I did not take her rights, his rights, their rights. I didn't do wrong by them. I did right by them. I know they don't feel that way, but you know and I know what I did. That's ihsan. Ihsan is about your own conscience. Because if you go by people's standards, you are worthless no matter what you do. No matter what you do. Our parents, for example, from different cultures, they have this thing, no matter how well you do, you could be the head of, cardiac surgery at a hospital, you're the most successful of their children, and they look at you and say, I expected so much more. Everybody else looks up to you, but your parents are like, why are you such a loser? Why are you such a disappointment? You're just not good enough. That's okay. You're not good enough for them, maybe. And maybe you're not good enough for your wife. She talks down to you all the time. She makes you feel like garbage all the time. Maybe your children make you feel bad. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But know one thing. You have to do right by Allah. That's it. You have to be able to say that I did my part. And I stood by justice. This is, وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And once you can maintain that inside, and that's enough pressure on itself, then Allah did not leave you and me at that. وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُوبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. Oh my goodness. So there's the close relatives on top of that. So on top of the immediate relationships, there's the close relatives you have to keep track of. Then he says you have to take care of your neighbor, who's got good relations with you, close friends. Dhil Qurba, some ulama included friends in them. Take care of your friends, especially the ones who live in your neighborhood. Check on them, keep tabs on them, find out if they need anything. The more you take care of other people, the more Allah takes care of you. So it's a selfish thing actually. Taking care of people, Allah will solve a lot of your problems. When you go out of your way and check on people and, show courtesy to them, show mercy to them. And then he says, even when you're traveling and there's, وَالْجَارِ بِالْجَنْبِ, there's somebody sitting next to you on a train, on a plane. There's somebody next to you on a bus. You're sharing a cab with somebody. You're sitting next to somebody in like a lobby at a doctor's office or an airport. Even show ihsan to them. Be good to them. Show them some goodness. They have courtesy too. They deserve something too. Literally, the ayah of ihsan is so profound that when you're driving on the highway, the driver next to you and the car next to you is actually a jar to you, is a neighbor to you, by your side. So you not indicating and abruptly changing lanes is you violating this ayah. You didn't do ihsan to him. You cut him off. You literally, like some guy's about to park and you because you want to catch Jumu'ah or something. This is you violating ihsan to your neighbor. This is ihsan. Ihsan means do a favor. Be good, show goodness. So that goodness, it starts with your family and then extends outward. And that's the last thing I want to share with you about this ayah. Is that, first of all, there's the minimum relationship with Allah. Then it's your parents. Then it's close relatives. Then it's neighbors. What does it seem? It seems that the thing that is, the relationship that is the closest, most intimate to your heart is first. Then we go to human relationships, and the most close human relationship is what? Your own parents. Then closest relatives, which of course includes spouse, children, others. And then it moves outward. And why is that important? Because unfortunately you find the reverse sometimes. You find somebody who's very nice in the community. Really nice to people. Salam, how are you? Gives you a hug, checks on you. Really nice guy. Except when he closes the door behind him and he gets home. Then he's Fir'aun all of a sudden. You wouldn't even recognize him. You would not recognize him. What happened to this guy? The voice changes, the temperament changes. He becomes somebody else. Allah is basically telling us in this sequence, there's no point of you being a nice guy outside if you can't show that first to your own parents, to your own spouse, to your own children. If you can't do that first, you can't extend that goodness first, then everything outside is fake. That is of no value and of no consequence, right? So this I wanted to highlight because in a very realistic sense, I acknowledge that men have quite a few pressures on them. If you're going to be able to fulfill your responsibilities, then you have to make sure you are at least receiving some of your most basic fundamental rights. You have to receive your rights because that is a need of the human being. If for example, if your children don't respect you, if you don't give you the minimum respect, just not even say salam to you, it'll eat away at you. It'll hurt you. And it'll affect you in ways you don't realize. It'll affect maybe the way you deal with other people. It'll affect you emotionally, spiritually, psychologically. It'll have other effects. So fix those relationships, not just in fulfilling your obligations, which comes first, but also at the same time learn to demand your rights also. But not go out of your way in demanding your rights. You have certain rights and you're entitled to them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us a people of balance. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us a people that are able to fulfill their worship of Allah in a way that does justice by everybody around them, and especially when it comes to our parents, that we're able to do our very, very best. May Allah Azza wa Jal overlook our shortcomings and make us of those who, on the Day of Judgment, people are testifying in our favor and not against us. Barakallahu li wa lakum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll close this cast now.